Antarctic rainforest. We arrived to Antarctica, 100 million years after the extinction of mankind. This is far from being the ice world we once knew, or even the temperate plains where giant ducks and flightless pigeons roamed in the Titanomacene. Now this continent is a huge extension of tropical rainforest located in between Africa and Australia, closer to Madagascar than anything else. The last time we visited the continent was still a whole giant land mass. However now, just like Africa did in the past, it has splitted in two. We are on the East Antarctic continent, also known as Persfanta, the greener half. The rest of the continent has drifted towards South America, and receives the name of Hadanta, dominated by a much colder and drier climate. We set foot on the shore, and before we even start to set up a camp, a curious creature comes to greet us. This is a Caraza, a relative of crows that arrived to the continent not so long ago flying from southern Africa, and quickly radiated into many species to fill the niche of mid-sized generalist omnivore, replacing some of the native omnivorous skull species that were already struggling with the increase in temperature, shaping their environments from open woodlands and plains into more dense jungles and tropical forests. The Caraza is notorious among the members of its family for its striking sexual dimorphism. While both sexes share the huge red beak, only males have the very colorful plumage. The females are more sober, with a dark coat of black feathers covering almost all of their bodies and a set of white feathers contrasting in their chest, and the newborn chicks are generally light brown with dark dots. Another peculiarity of this species is that the chick hatches from the egg in less than 24 hours after the female lays it on a very improvised and small simple nest they build on a small bush or right in the ground, and the chicks are precocious, opposite to most other species of crow or passeriform in general that are altricial. This means the parents can be a bit more carefree with the construction of the nest, since the chicks can walk and keep their body temperature since the moment of birth and start exploring and foraging on their own after just a few days. Upon 4 weeks they will be able to fly and will be almost completely independent, but will still stay in close proximity to their parents for almost a year in order to learn from them as much as possible, how to identify and access different food sources and different tactics to keep predators away, and even basic tool use. Among the most common instances of observed tool use in this birds, we can mention the usage of long sticks to collect termites in a similar way to Anthropocene African great apes, and the use of rocks to crack open nuts, and even some species of freshwater snails. But perhaps the most unique is the use of coconuts for fishing, because the process requires many steps, including first finding a coconut with a small hole like the one some rodents or woodpecker relatives can do, and then when they find one they will need to put it on a shallow body of water from where they can easily recover it the next day to check the inside for small fishes, crustaceans or insects. Some will keep the same coconut for months until it roots away or gets stolen or crushed by another animal, and some will repeatedly bring new coconuts to the animals that they know can make a hole on them and keep a set of them and rotate the use. We leave the birds behind and start to adventure deeper into the jungle until we hear a weirdly familiar sound in the trees. Their call sounds like the barking of a dog, but it is actually a marsupial. This animal is a noki or marsupial monkey. The noki ancestors arrived from South America a bit over 20 million years ago, island hopping from South America, and took advantage of the large amount of empty niches left behind by the minor extinction event that the split of the continent provoked. In recent times the increase in temperature has only benefited them, making their preferred habitat increase and their food to become more common, making them one of the few mammals to thrive in this turbulent times. They feed primarily on fruit and soft leaves, but can also eat small insects, and have been observed eating bird eggs stolen from nests or fallen baby chicks in rare occasions. They live in small groups with tight bonds similarly to primates. These groups will involve in social grooming quite often, with members of higher social status receiving more attention from low-ranging ones, and it seems to also be a way to gain the favor of other members of the group. females are slightly larger than males, and the troop leaders are often matriarchs, mothers of the rest of the group, with her mate as the primary henchman, and often if she dies he will become the new leader along with any female of the group that is not his offspring. Fights among different troops can be quite violent, and often older individuals carry at least 1 or 2 scars from this type of encounters, but they have never been observed to kill each other and typically stop when one curls up into a ball, as this is a gesture they interpret as the utmost submission. We see the animals continue getting further away in the branches until we lost sight of them. We walk across the forest floor for a while when suddenly we heard a high-pitched squeal coming from some bushes, and when we approach we see a large bird of prey pinning down an agonizing mid-sized flightless bird. The predator is a member of the saw family, the Antarctic red saw or phoenix. Saw is the apex predator of this forest's canopy, feeding in a wide variety of arboreal and terrestrial creatures. The ones that hunt with a brutal and efficient technique, flying at a high speed and darting out towards the prey, impacting on it with their long talons, penetrating deep into the animal's soft tissues and often killing them instantly on impact. If the impact force was not enough for the animal to die right away, the bird will fly to a near branch and wait for it to bleed out or suffocate, form the thoracic decompression caused by the wound. Among the unfortunate animals that form part of the menu of this bird we can count the Noii, the Caraza, and several species of land pigeon like the jungle dove. This male is eating. With large prey, the bird will eat on the ground as fast as it can, as the smell and noise might attract large terrestrial predators, and if the prey is small they will carry it back to their nest or their preferred perching spot to feed. Like most members of their family, they have some level of sexual dimorphism, and males have brighter colors as well as longer crests and tails that they will swing around to impress possible mates or to reinforce their bond with an already mated partner, as these birds often for long-lasting monogamous spawns that mate for several mating seasons, or even their whole lives. Mated pairs will use the same nest over and over again, making minor repairs every year to ensure the nest remains in good conditions to raise their chicks, only ever abandoning it if it completely falls off, which is a rare event. We left the birds behind and continue adventuring further into the jungle. Finally, after a couple hours walking, we arrive to a river, and here we can see many creatures including several species of fish and crustaceans, most descendants of marine species, and preying on them there is a large arthropod. This is a Sfly, a large species of insect belonging to the order Anisoptera, descendants of the blue-eyed darner. These animals have completely abandoned the aerial predator lifestyle of their ancestors and embraced a fully aquatic existence. The last segment of their abdomen as well as 4 out of their 6 limbs are flattened and paddle-shaped in order to aid in underwater locomotion, moving in a way that is somewhat resemblant of marine mammals. They also have 2 sets of external gills, one in the last segment, derived from the ones their ancestor had in their larval stage, and another one in their thorax, derived from what used to be wings. These animals can be found in swamps, lakes, ponds and rivers, all across the continent, and are some of the most proficient predators of these ecosystems, feeding on a wide variety of fish and small aquatic tetrapods such as lizards and tadpoles. They use a pair of strong grasping appendages in conjunction with their camouflage to ambush unsuspecting prey, sometimes up to 3 times their own size. They reproduce at the beginning of October. In order to do so, both males and female will go up the surface and hold on to vegetation. The males will hold on to the larger females with their head pointing in opposite directions, as their abdomens are not as long and flexible as the ones of their flighted relatives and cannot do the typical motion of grabbing their heads and flexing their abdomens to their gonads. After mating is done, females will dig a small hole in the river's bed, inside of which they will lay their eggs. After that they will mount guard inside the burrow, for 3 weeks, killing and eating whatever small crustacean or fish enters. After the eggs hatch, parenting is over, and the female will abandon the larvae. The larvae look like smaller versions of the adults and are fully capable to hunt since the moment they are born. Many will even target their siblings as prey. There are however many other predators in this river. Some can make the largest scionflies look tiny in comparison. This bird, for example, the ogojuk, standing up to 2 meters tall. This animal is one of the largest carnivorous birds alive and one of the largest predators of the continent. They feed mainly on fish but have been observed catching small reptiles and even penguins, the ones they catch with their long serrated and hooked beaks, and generally swallow whole. The males can be told apart by the coloration of the feathers and the small dome-like structure on its beak. The one that present in both sexes is more prominent in them and allows for a wider repertoire of calls which they will use during courtship to impress a possible mate. The sounds they produce range from classic duck-like quacking to low growls that resemble the sound of some species of crocodile and even high-pitched whistles. All of these are both used as part of mating calls or in intimidatory displays to chase away rival males or potential predators. If the courtship ritual works, the pair will remain together for life, and in this species this can mean up to 30 years together, considering they get a mate the same year they reach sexual maturity, around their 8th birthday. This also applies for same-sex pairs that in this species can represent up to 10% of the adults. Just like in some species of penguin or other species of Anseriform, the homosexual pairs still retain the same parental instinct of the rest of the species and will adopt orphan chicks. Another large species of duck that inhabits the forests is the Dianza, a descendant of a different lineage of ducks that arrived to the continent in a separated migration event. Actually, the Ogojuks and the Dianza shared a last common ancestor at some point in the Miocene, being both already very well defined and separated species at the moment of the mass extinction event. The large bird looks at us and produces a low guttural sound similar to a cat's purring sound, but in this species it does not mean he is happy or friendly, but the opposite. The animal is warning us not to get any closer, and coming from a bird that weighs as much as a bull is better to listen. Even if these animals are herbivores, the males can get quite aggressive and are able to deliver kicks capable to kill an animal the size of a dog. This species feeds on a variety of plants including grasses and leaves and fruits from bushes and trees, as well as aquatic vegetation. The one they eat standing on the river bed or to the side of it, as they are not really good swimmers and cannot adventure further in without risking drowning, despite the fact that they technically belong to the diving duck family. Like many birds, they exhibit sexual dimorphism is the case of the Dianza. However, this is only notorious during mating season. The bluish feathers on the wings and tail, the long peacock-like feathers in the shoulders, a beard in the middle of the neck, all of them fall off at the end and grow again at the beginning of every mating season. So for most of the year the males are not so different from the females. Also, the red patch of naked skin in their chest is also gray for most of the year, and even their penis reduces and grows again, a trait they share with some Anthropocene duck species. We start to head back to the camp when we hear some footsteps behind us, and after a few minutes it becomes clear something is following us. We stop, and from the bushes a 60 centimeters tall creature approaches us. This is a Takon, a descendant of the Argentinian tegu, that has adopted a bipedal stance and has a metabolism as high as the one of a similar-sized mammal or bird. They are technically predators, but they do not pose any sort of threat for an animal of our size. Actually, the weird thing is that this animal does not seem afraid of us. Instead, it looks curious. The animal stares at us for a while before a howling sound in the distances scares him off and runs away. Likely the howling creature is one of the lizard's predators. These animals are around the size of a house cat, so is likely they form part of the menu of many larger predators. Their main defense is running away. They can escape at a speed of almost 50 km per hour, in short distances, or at a sustained speed of 30 km per hour for almost 30 minutes, which is impressive not only for a reptile but for any animal in general. They will take a while to cool down after this, and if they cannot find water they will need to remain immobile in a shady place for at least 20 minutes. The good part is that there are not many endurance predators well adapted to the dense jungle these animals live in. They are also good swimmers and can stay submerged for a good 15 minutes, so that is another way of escaping predators. In a last resource type of scenario with the animal being cornered, they are able to use tail whips and relatively powerful bites to fight their way out of the encounter, but this puts them at risk of receiving wounds or even lost part of their tail, what would enable them from keeping balance while running, meaning most likely a dead sentence for the animal. During mating season the males will become more active, grow their gonads, and a small keratinous crest on their forehead, and start searching for females around their territory. They can remember the location of several females' burrows and will basically go visiting them one by one to mate with as many females as possible. If 2 or more males end up getting to the same burrow at the same time, they will compete in a sort of wrestling match. They will both bite each other necks. Although the thick skin and layer of fat they have there will make impossible for them to harm each other, and will use brute strength to try to subdue each other to the ground, as many times as necessary for the loser to finally give up. Some weak males will sometimes actually win just by letting the other male thrash them around without opposing any resistance until the bigger one exhausts itself, and attack once it has no energy left, which, despite sounding like a very cheap trick, comes to show how much these reptiles can actually plan ahead. After mating, females will lay a small clutch of eggs, between 4 to 8, around the size of a ping pong ball, and incubate them in their burrows, the one that can extend for up to 2 meters underground and are insulated with animal fur, feathers and dry grass. Here the baby lizards will hatch in around 1 month. The speed of the incubation is notorious for a reptile and is thanks to 2 factors that they share with birds. First being the body heat provided by the mother, and second the fact that the offspring is born toothless, only developing teeth later on, around the 2 months of age. They do not need to be born with them, as the mother will feed them regurgitated meat and worms for their first 3 months of life. Then most will go away to live on their own, but there are a few cases in which mothers allow one of their daughters to stay with them even after reaching adulthood. After a few minutes, we see another animal step out of the bushes. This is a devil croc, a species of fully terrestrial caiman that inhabits most of the densely forested regions of the continent. Its ancestors arrived to the continent swimming all the way from southern Argentina and spread throughout the continent when it was still relatively temperate. As their new home drifted further north and became tropical, they thrived and diversified, and while most species are still relatively unchanged, freshwater fish eaters and ambush predators, one branch ended up becoming more efficient at walking and running, abandoning completely their ancestral lifestyle. Most of these land caimans are fairly small, at the size of a coyote or mid-sized dog. The devil croc is one of the largest. These animals have a very powerful bite, however, enough to severely injure an animal the size of a human, so we should still be careful around it. However, it is unlikely it will try to attack, as they don't target prey bigger than themselves very often, preferring animals around half their size or smaller. They have been observed hunting several species of lizards, flightless birds and mid-sized rodents. The hatchlings are however far too small to target any of them and will most often eat insects and small crustaceans, as well as eggs and whatever they can scavenge. Both adults and juveniles will also occasionally eat fruit, but it represents a very minor part of their diet, generally only around 5 to 10%. Here we can see a female collecting branches. She is in the middle of nest building. Once she is done, she will lay a clutch of between 10 and 25 eggs, all around the size of a chicken egg and elongated like the ones of their ancestors. Around 2/3 are fertilized and will be deposited further down on the pile, while the other unfertilized ones will lay closer to the surface to act as decoys in case a predator tries to attack the nest. Once they babies hatch, the mother will provide protection and even bring them food from time to time for a period of around 6 months. On the other hand, males don't partake in the rearing of their young and will even attack juveniles indiscriminately if they encounter them in their territory, in order to get rid of what could become future competition. We left the reptile behind and headed back to the camp. We finally finished collecting our belongings, packed everything and sailed away from the coasts of the now green continent. Our expedition here ends, but the travel continues, exploring the world 100 million years after the Armageddon.